Good afternoon. It's Ken here from the Ken 18 RC workshop. Today I'm going to talk about scale RC modeling and my views on it. And we're going to talk about the man on the galloping horse and what that means. And here we found friend Mark. He actually found a photo in an RC magazine with a man on a galloping horse. You know, when I first got into scale RC modeling back in 1978, I would go to the local club contest, not as a participant, but as a spectator. And I would see all these gorgeous scale models. And the people who built these, some of these people are very talented craftsmen. And I would have to say maybe 10% are actually very good craftsmen that can do the panel line and rivets and have the know-how and the patience to do all those details on their model and want to do the details on their model. And I wanted to do those things on my model as well. What I found is that the more detail you put on a model, the heavier it gets. So it becomes a balance between detail and flyability. And flyability, I mean, a lot of these guys who build scale contest models only fly their models on weekends, whereas, I mean, at a contest, at a scale contest, and sometimes there's one or two scale contests a year, and that's all they would fly their models at. Whereas I wanted to fly my scale models and my scale warbirds, I'd like to fly them every weekend, you know, so I build them that way. So when I first started scale modeling, I would put every rivet and panel line and paint and hobby epoxy and epoxy, and the models came out very heavy and didn't fly very well and crash. But I persisted. And a lot of times I see first time scale RC modelers trying to do the same thing. The models get too heavy, they crash, and they gave up that part of the hobby. Then along came a guy that we really expected, a club member that we really expected in our RC clubs. His name was Clark Tex Gaiman, and he used to say, "Why are you putting rivets on your model? Why are you putting panel lines on it?" He says, "A man on a galloping horse at 10 paces will not see that detail when the model does a nice flyby." And he had a point. And so I sort of reshifted my focus into building my scale models for flyability and everyday use or every weekend use rather than for scale contest use. If you want to build your scale model for scale contest use, by all means, if that's what your niche is and that's what your passion is. I admire those guys who can spend years building a scale model, or even some of the top scale modelers employ people to build their scale models for them, and they spend months building them. That's their full-time job. Anyway, this man on a galloping horse changed my whole thought on the things. And I want to share some pictures of Tex with you. You know, he was a great guy. He passed away a few years ago, and so there's Tex as a young F-86 pilot. There he is as a F-104 starfighter maintenance pilot, and there's Tex with I think this is a Midwest AT-6 Texan Harvard model that he built. And a lot of times he would build his scale model, especially the Harvards he had flown when he was a pilot in training. And none of his models had rivets or panel lines, or even interior cockpits in them. They might have a pilot, fake pilot in them, and his models flew very well, and he flew very well. He focused on flyability of the modeler. That being said, this week I got bored, and because it's still winter up here in the Canadian Arctic in Winnipeg, I decided to airbrush the green camel on my Tempest. The gray, I had found some spray bombs. This was the lower gray. I had found a spray bomb, a spray can, the bottom gray color I wanted to use, and that worked out well. And for the upper gray, I found another gray color that I like to use, and that turned out pretty well. Are those two gray colors 100% perfectly scale? I doubt that. But for my eye and my use, hey, it's pretty close. And for the 3 view I'm using, it's good enough. Plus it was handy. And I build my models to please myself. If you're into scale competition, of course, you're going to use the scale paint chips and match the color perfectly to the federal standard numbers. And if that's your bag, go for it. But the green camouflage, I couldn't really find a spray bomb to do it, and I decided I wanted to airbrush. I'm going to airbrush the models because I spray latex, household latex, and it's not going to be too stinky in the house, and there's not going to be a bunch of overspray using an airbrush rather than a touch-up gun. If it was warmer in summertime, I'd probably use a touch-up gun. So I started using my touch-up gun, and I got not bad results. Then I started running into some issues, and I had to stop. So what I did, I went on YouTube and I watched a whole bunch of videos of people airbrushing, either airbrushing plastic models or terrain or stuff like that, especially the ones who are using latex paints, also latex paint, and I learned a lot. So then I went on Amazon and bought myself a new airbrush. It was 29 bucks. It's a Timber Tech. And as you can see by the results, it worked pretty nice. It took me well 4 passes to get the coverage I wanted, because, you know, like most people, when I got my first airbrush, I would just hook it up to the air compressor and start spraying, and I didn't know much about thinning or painting or cleaning, and the airbrush got all gunky with latex and it didn't work afterwards. So the new airbrush, I watched the videos how to look after it and clean it, and it's going to work a lot better, and the results are there. One thing I did buy was these paint cone strainers at Princess Auto. The pack of 4 was on sale for $2.99, and when I strained my bare latex paint, it had quite a few lumps in it. I think that was part of my problem, was that paint had lumps and would clog up the airbrush. So anyway, I got the green painted. I'm gonna paint some markings on some vinyl sheet or ink gent them, then cover them clear. I think the model itself, I'm gonna give a satin clear coat with polyurethane, water-based. I don't use water-based paints because the solvent-based paint's too stinky in the house. And she's going to be ready for summer maiden. And I just want to say to the beginning scale modelers out there, don't go for perfection or precision scale your first time out. Build the model you want. Build how much detail you want into it. Don't be intimidated that you don't have every last rivet and panel line on it. Enjoy scale modeling and build them for flyability. If your goal is scale contests, I admire those people that you know, do those scale contests, that's their bag, and all the more power to them. But I know when I was a young guy, I felt intimidated that I had to go that route and build a precise scale model, and I say you don't have to. You know, and if we look at the top flight ARFs these days, when they're still in business, you know, the Top Flight Zero, the Top Flight Spitfire, the Top Flight Mustang, the Top Flight Hellcat, the Top Flight Corsair, all covered in monocoat, no panel lines, no rivets on them. They fly fantastic, and they fly every day, every weekend. So cheers from today. It's Saturday, March 1st. Hope you all have a great time in the workshop. Thanks for listening. My videos are totally random. There's nothing scripted. I don't plan. Whatever pops into my head, I decide I want to share with you guys out there. If you like these videos, like them and subscribe, and see what else pops into this 70-year-old brain for me to talk about some other day. Take care and enjoy the hobby. Cheers.